This video will be a screen share, and it will be talking about affirmative and negative expressions and words. So technically, affirmative and negative expressions and words, it's not a grammar point. It is more than anything vocabulary. So a lot of the affirmative and negative expressions and words that you will see in the screen share with some PowerPoints that I'm going to show you on the screen. A lot of those words and expressions you have been seeing them. You have seen them since like Spanish 1 class. You're going to see words like nada, which means nothing, or nunca, which means never, siempre, which means always. So this is not a grammar point. I simply wanted to take a few moments to go through some of the PowerPoints that I've made available to you on your class site and just walk you through a couple of things. Am I going to be looking at every single slide? No. Do we need to look at every single slide together? No, because since it's simply we're going to say that it's vocabulary, and I'm just helping you to go through some vocabulary and figure out how it's used in context. So I have two different PowerPoints. Both of them are available to you on your class site, and trying to figure out how this vocabulary that's not grammar is used in context. Is there a little bit of a grammatical component in a couple of different things? Sure, but most students won't even recognize it as being grammar, and they will simply just memorize it. So you should memorize it as vocabulary. So I'm gonna share my screen with you. And what do I want to show you? Let's look at this one first. And I'm not going to put it in the full screen sharing mode so that I can show you a couple of things. Oops, sorry. Okay, so again, we're just looking very quickly at affirmation and negation. So it's also called affirmative and negative expressions. And essentially it is vocabulary. So we can see here some affirmative and negative expressions on this first slide. I will just point some of them out to you as you read along with me. So in that first bubble on the left-hand side where it says no hay, that means there isn't or there aren't. Ningún is no or none. One thing that I do want to point out to you, and the reason why I'm starting with this slide first, is because there is only one grammatical component to any of this stuff that is affirmative and negative expressions and words. One, that's it. And we will see it in more detail in just a few minutes. But the one grammatical component that exists is, if you notice, it says no hay ningún tren. What happens is that the word itself is not actually ningún. The word in, let's call it its base state or virgin state, is ninguno, ninguno, with no accent on a U and with an O on the end. So ninguno, and it would have to match whatever it's describing in gender and number. And so it could be ninguno, ninguna, ningunos, ningunas, but there is one grammatical component to every single thing I'm getting ready to walk through with you, and that is whenever ningún or algún, or the longer, let's call them virgin states of those words, ninguno and alguno, just those two, ninguno and alguno, whenever they're in front of a masculine singular noun, like tren, because it's el tren, ninguno will shorten to ningún, so it loses its O and it gains an accent mark over the U. And alguno, if it happened to be in that sentence before el tren, then it would lose its O and gain an accent mark over its U and turn into algún. So just remember right off the bat here, we're looking at the only grammatical component, and everything else is simply rote memorization of, let's call it, vocabulary. So the only thing that I can mention is in terms of explaining anything and not just walking with things through things with you, is that ninguno, just the sound, ninguno, even before you know what any of this stuff means, ninguno, when it precedes a masculine singular noun, turns to ningún, as you see written there on the screen in that bubble on the left before the word tren. And alguno does the same thing. So if it were written before a masculine singular noun, it would drop its O and get an accent over the U and turn into algún. So I'm going to look at the next slide and just visualize with you some affirmative words and some negative words. These just simply have to be memorized. So you have in the green, the affirmative words, and in the red, the negative words. And some of these words, very honestly, are kind of tricky to translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English, because remember, it's more like idea by idea. So just to give you some ideas of the more common ones, if you look on the green side, algo means something, todo means all or everything, alguien means someone, todos and todas is just the plural way to say all or everything, but most of the time all, but the plural way. Siempre is always, and then you can keep on looking at the rest of the list. So on the red side with the negative vocabulary words, nada means nothing, nadie means no one, nunca means never, and then you can kind of look at the rest on your own as well in that list. Then we have more. So we have some more lists of affirmative and negative words. So they categorize them for you with affirmative and negative, the affirmative being in the green, obviously the negative being in the red. And it's just a matter of knowing what those words mean. Couple of examples. They're still sticking with this whole green and red thing so that you can easily identify which is an affirmative word and which is a negative word. Again, remember that the only grammatical component that exists is the one that I opened up with the algún and the ningún. And we will see that later before this video ends, I promise. But everything else is simply just vocabulary. So we're going to see, for example, algo means something, as you can see in the context here, and nada means nothing. So I won't go through all of these, but for example, someone is asking a question, ¿Hay algo en la silla? ¿Hay algo en la silla? Is there something on the chair? And you can see they have translated the sentence there for you, since they even know that these are hard to translate sometimes from English to Spanish, so they wanted to make sure that you made no mistake about it. And then someone answers the question, no, no hay nada en la silla. No, no hay nada en la silla. And we know that's a negative word because it's in red. And what does it mean? No, there is nothing on the chair. You can see on the next slide, green affirmative word, red negative word. ¿Hay alguien en el coche? ¿Hay alguien en el coche? Is there someone in the car? And then someone answers and says, no, there is no one in the car. No, no hay nadie en el coche. So again, you can see that there's no grammatical component to any of this. It's just memorizing, and they have helped you to use these things in context. So as we look through, they're using alguien and nadie again. And then they get to this, which is what I started off with. So as I called it, it's base form, or it's, I think I said virgin state or something like that. Alguno, alguno, and ninguno are really actually kind of hard to translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English, but I don't disagree with what they've said. There are multiple translations. Alguno kind of, sort of means a or some, and ninguno kind of, sort of means no or none. So if you wanted to memorize them, that would be the best way to memorize them. So they're kind of tricky to translate. So again, alguno means a or some, and ninguno means no or none. But the grammatical component that I was trying to show you was that in their base forms, they are alguno and ninguno. They generally match what they are describing. So you will see these words, alguno and ninguno, in that form, alguno, ninguno. You will see it, like I said already, as alguna, ninguna. You will see it as algunos, ningunos, and algunas, ningunas. But remember what I said toward the beginning of the video, the only grammatical component to any of this vocabulary, and that is that whenever one of those words, alguno or ninguno, comes before a masculine and singular noun, they get shortened to algún. You can see it there in that question. ¿Hay algún papel en la mesa? Algún is spelled A-L-G-U-N because it precedes a masculine singular noun, papel, el papel. Notice that in their answer, no hay ningún papel en la mesa. They've done the same thing because the word ningún precedes a masculine singular noun, papel, and so it is now spelled N-I-N-G-U with an accent, N. And you can see as I'm talking, read along, and it says, alguno and ninguno are shortened to algún and ningún before a masculine singular noun. Note that algún and ningún bear a written accent mark. It says at the bottom of our slide and over the U. So please take a look at that, as it's the literally only component that is a grammatical component or anything that you have to, let's say, remember, other than just memorizing what certain words mean with these affirmative and negative expressions. So we can see that it comes up again here, and here we start to see those alguno and ninguno words being used in their feminine form, which I've already mentioned. And then you have another few slides. I'm going to stop on this one at slide 10, but you have, I think 19 or something like that, actually 16 pretty important ones that might help you to see these vocabulary words being used in context. So that is one. And yes, I do have this available for you on your class site. And then I will just quickly share with you another one. And this also is available to you on your class site. Oh, look, they're traveling with the suitcase. Long story. So we have another PowerPoint with some examples in context. These kinds of PowerPoints, unlike the other ones will actually give a little bit of explanation. These kind of PowerPoints basically just kind of go over how things are used in context and show you little pictures so you can understand better and visualize things. So we have some more affirmative and negative expressions, and they have put all of them in bold so that you can see them in context. There's has viajado, that's the present perfect. Alguna, you notice that's the feminine singular way of our alguno that we just saw. The word vez is like a colloquial expression that's used with alguna vez, is like any time or sometime. So this sentence, not translated word for word, but this question could be, if somebody asked me, ¿Has viajado alguna vez a Panamá? I would take that to mean, have you traveled at some time, or have you ever traveled any time to Panama? And the answer, no, nunca he viajado a Panamá. We have the present perfect right here. And this word nunca is another one. If it is in bold, you need to memorize it as vocabulary. Looking at the two PowerPoints that I am showing you, plus in addition, your course materials as well. Hold on. It's telling me that my screen sharing has been paused. I didn't want to pause it. Huh. Hold on. Let me stop the video so I don't have to start it all over again, and pick up where we left off, because this happened before and I had to do this video over and over and over and over and over again just to show you some vocabulary stuff. So let me stop it and fix the screen share thing. I have no idea. I think this PowerPoint is just not meant to be shown to you, because I have had to do it 3 different times over 2 different semesters. So let me try again and see if it will work this time. Let's see. Okay, hopefully. 3rd time, 2nd semester, hopefully is gonna work. So what I was saying is, anytime you have anything in bold, make sure that you know what it means. And again, I said, if somebody asked me the question, ¿Has viajado alguna vez a Panamá? And I would answer them, no, nunca he viajado a Panamá. This is the present perfect, and nunca means never. So it would be something like, my answer might be, no, I have never traveled to Panama. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of these with you. You can see that todo or todos, all or everything, algunos is there. También is another word for vocabulary and memorization. Tampoco is another one. Alguien, nadie, alguien, for example, ¿hay alguien en el avión? Is there someone, or is there anyone in the airplane? No, no hay nadie en el avión. No, there is not anyone, or no, there is no one on the airplane. ¿Necesitan algo más? ¿Necesitan algo más? Like, this dude is helping them at the hotel or whatever. Do y'all need something or anything more? And they say, no, nada más. No, nothing more. Todo está muy bien. So everything is good. And so with that, I have walked you through the 2 PowerPoints that I have available for you. One of them gives a little bit let's call it a little bit more explanation, even though both of them, very honestly, like I said from the very reading, are just vocabulary. So the first one that I showed you would give a little bit more explanation, and the second one that I showed you just shows basically things in context. So remember that you can look at your course materials, and this, just really quickly, kind of quickly, was just wanted to walk you through some vocabulary things. It's called affirmative and negative expressions and words. And it literally is vocabulary, except for what? Except for a couple of things. The alguno and ninguno, changing to algún and ningún, with an accent over the U, before and only before a masculine singular noun. It's the only kind of explanatory thing that I can offer you, because everything else is just vocabulary. So that was affirmative and negative expressions.